We are back and getting ready to get into the first match of the playoffs, and it is going to be Tyler versus Glory. And just a reminder, this is kind of the way the second match of the group overall. Yep. So both these players can afford to lose a match, and they are not knocked out. But the winner will go on to face Chonsu, and then play for that group winning spot, which will move them on to Sunday. But I believe we are going to be going pretty quickly into the match between these two players, and we see what the Brink brought here, and we see the Priest banned out.
Wow.
So Glory's losing his Priest, shielding his Shaman, which I thought might be the case, whereas Tyler has shielded his Priest and had his Shaman banned out. So Tyler going for, I'll say, old school strat, or the generally accepted strat across most of Grandmasters is Priest is the best. Shield it because you want to play it. Whereas Glory changed up his strategy. And honestly, new cards or not, this is not too much of a surprise from Glory, because out of him and Alutimo at least, he was the one who wasn't shielding Priest the most.
That's true. Firstly, I just want to say that with Tyler being at Fino's house at the moment, a European Grandmaster, it is hilarious that he looks like he's sitting in his dad's gaming chair there. Just wanted to add that because he looks so much smaller than Fino in that chair, who is truly larger than life. But I will then go on to say that I think it's a perfect demonstration of where the meta is at this week. As you can see there, the new cards added in to the aggro token shaman, whatever you want to call it there, really do make it a strong contender for this metagame.
And as you can see across the board, a featured card in every single deck so far. Emperor Thorison, we all remember the power level of him reducing as a live effect at the end of every turn, reducing the mana cost of all the cards in your hand by 1. And then we saw the Kun the Forgotten King, which is absurd in Druid.
Filthy.
We're probably going to see it this weekend, but effectively you can make an infinite amount of them and play them for a bajillion armor, so we'll see that potentially, or hopefully not, this weekend. Whereas Tyler's list, again, we see the Emperor. But I will say that the Priest has not really changed from before the what would you call it, mini expansion?
The event. Yeah, Doom in the Tomb, the event. Yes, I think it's actually an identical to the Hunter Ace list. I think we came to calling it with the Bonsandi put in there as well. It's kind of an interesting dynamic that we have in Asia-Pacific, where a lot of the players actually have been omitting Bonsandi for quite a while now. Tom60229, a player that really stands out to me as he really liked to regenerate instead in his Priest deck instead. But for Tyler here, it's mostly just business as usual with a couple of new cards slotted in, which is somewhat unsurprising. I think it's we shouldn't underestimate how important it is, however, for individual tech cards and how much of a difference that can make in a list. Like, even, for example, this Shaman, which was banned away, maybe we'll get to see it later on. The fact that he's not going from the Thing from Below package and instead has Sea Giants in there. If he found himself in a mirror, being able to play a 1 or 2 mana 8/8 can just make all the difference in the world. Yeah, and it's a problem, and it's what I was talking to you just before we went live, actually, of, you know, everyone's saying Shaman in either the quest form or the token form, I guess, or aggro form, whatever, is like the best deck at the moment, just of overall power level. But the issue that comes up is if that's the best deck and everyone is playing it, then it kind of becomes not the best deck. Because, again, look at MCT, right? If you bring in Sea Giants and your opponent's playing Quest version and they have MCT, well, you can't not play into it because the deck won't work if you can't go wide. But then that's a problem going forward, because if you get MCT, the game can just end. But anyway, we can talk more. We'll have plenty of time over this weekend, so we can talk more about it then. But let's go into it. Glory on the top on the Shaman, and Tyler going to be on the Druid on the bottom. Got himself a... Wow. Tyler has got himself a disgustingly powerful hand. He has clearly been invigorated by the aura that Fino's room gives him here to just absolutely high roll this starting hand. It's the dream. It's the absolute dream. Even getting the Wrath as well in case things should go awry.
You've seen Space Jam?
I have seen Space Jam.
I feel like what they did at Fino's place when all the players are gathered is actually just pass like a mouse around, and it's absorbed all their powers, and then they just like pass it to each other across each time they have to play. Here we go though, Glory gonna pick a Stormbringer and hope it can go off later, because at the moment even just his board kind of loses to what Tyler's going to do.
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable to go for the Stormbringer there because in Glory's list, which runs, of course, Desert Hare and Hench Clan Hag as well, what it can mean is that you can just go for making a board on one turn and then upgrading it on that very same turn with the Stormbringer. So it constantly means that Tyler has to be ahead on board or he can truly start to suffer.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like this build from Glory, double Mana Tide Totem, the double Hench Clan Hag, and double thing from below. My big worry here, Derek, is there is no Soul of the Murlocs, and Druid is pretty good at AoEing down boards, so it might be that Tyler just locks Glory out of this game.
It's very possible.
Once we hit mid to late game.
Yeah. At the moment, Tyler does not have any AoE, so maybe for Glory, his chance to wrestle his way back into this game where he's looking, even if he doesn't know it yet, in a pretty miserable spot, is to go for something like a big Thunderhead turn, because even if it's just a bunch of measly 1/1s, Oasis Surger can only clear 2 of those off in a single turn, so maybe then after that he can follow up with a Bloodlust or a Stormbringer and win himself that board permanently.
Definitely tough, isn't it? Because again, looking at this list, it's very token based, but the early game is close to non-existent. Like the real powerful things happen from, I would say, turn 4, 5, 6 onwards, and that's when Druid gets cooking as well, kind of. So it's just weird that like your tools that are good in the early game aren't good against slow decks. They're more there for the anti-aggro or the mirrors. Glory though making a good push onto the board this turn though. This Thunderhead's going to make up and do a lot of work, which is when you just look at the sheer value of that minion. Never mind, it's a 4-mana 3/6. It's insane.
It is truly.
Some people don't play that card.
That's what I'm saying, man. The lists of this deck, like, I think Viper's version cut the Overload package in the first build, which was, you know, just a first build of the deck just to start climbing on ladder with. And he won like 10 games in a row with it, I think, or something at Top Legend. But yes, I think personally, I do very much like the Overload Thunderhead package in there. And for Tyler, I think it's a pretty standard turn here. The real decision point for him was last turn, of course, when he was clearly considering, do I play the second Crystal Merchant or do I kill off that Evil Totem? And personally, I'm a pretty big fan of killing off Evil Totem. But having said that, my experience with Evil Totem has been versus Quest Shaman mostly, in which case it's a lot more important to kill it off because it gives them more battle cries.
Hold on to your chair. First evolve of playoffs.
Okay.
That looks bad. It's kind of bad.
That's all right.
It's okay. Yeah. It could be worse. It could be worse for Tyler.
Spirit of the Shark or Spirit of the Tiger?
I think it's Tiger.
I think it's Tiger too. Which is okay. You know, if he can go for Stormbringer next turn.
My worry is like giving Druid coin.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough. And going back just a little bit, obviously this game is spicing up right now. Tyler could have not Ferocious Howled and used the Worthy Expedition to try and find AoE, and then hero powered the 1/1 down. So I think, although Ferocious Howl is an absolutely fine turn and there's no problem with it, I think there was a thought, because if he thinks, well, next turn I'm gonna Oasis Surger, but then the next turn is Hidden Oasis like necessarily good enough? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it actually going to be good against a wide token board? Whereas if he finds, you know, actual Starfall, then there you go. It could have been stronger. I mean, he's found it anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but it's just a point to raise that Ferocious Howl wasn't an autoplay. These legendaries as well aren't exactly mind-blowing.
Yeah, none of the real super big boys that you're looking for, the legendary dragons. And it does mean that for Tyler, it's honestly a pretty easy clear-up on this turn. The Oasis Surger into Oasis Surger into Oasis Surger, 3 turns in a row that he could potentially throw down may just be too much.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Tyler's had a very good opening.
Yes.
But again, the thing that worries me about this build is that, from the Shaman, is that your stuff kicks in as the Druid kicks in, not earlier, in my opinion at least, which means that I think it just feels, in a weird way, it's an aggro deck that feels bad versus Druid.
That's fair.
Just because the AoE demolishes it as well, right?
I mean, it's aggro's such a broad term that we throw down. You know, traditionally it meant like in Hearthstone, at least, of course, just meant the face hunters just pushing everything face at the start of the game. Whereas this deck is clearly not that. It's a board-based deck. You have to be able to win board to win the game.
And that's my issue, right? I agree, but then play Soul the Murloc.
That's fair.
So I feel like that's what's missing. If you're playing a board-based deck, when you have cards that benefit from the sticky board, play one of the best cards for it in the game right now.
But then you have to ask yourself, if you hadn't seen the list that the practice group at Fino's house had come up with, would you have had that same thought? It's a difficult conclusion to come to.
Honestly, I probably would have ended up playing Quest Shaman.
That's fair enough.
So it wouldn't have mattered, I guess. But I think every time I've played a token-based deck, and even sometimes in Quest Shaman, and I can discover Soul the Murloc, I'm like, oh, wait, this is pretty sick.
You know,
I just feel like every time it just feels good. And there's a Kun the Forgotten King, which is effectively a 0 mana 7/7 that gives you 10 armor.
Yeah.
As it does gain you the 10 crystals in Quest Druid activated form as well.
I think I can agree with Tyler here, though. As much as it will pain him, he should go for Starfall and then could just get another one if he wants there. Still passing it over.
Misplay. Later on, he could have played Kun into whatever. That would have been 20 armor.
And honestly, that probably would have won him the game as well. But I think correctly bid for Tyler, even though I know you're just memeing. I think for him here, he's just going for the lock out the outs of how you lose the game, which I think is pretty much purely wideboard into Bloodlust. Right. If you can lock out that, the game's his.
And that's it now, right? Like, again, I'll just keep harping on about it, but Soul the Murloc completely changes the game, like, drastically. And Glory's running, like, Mana Tide totems and 2 in the list. Like, and 2 evil totems. And don't get me wrong, evil totems are good, but I don't know. I think there could have been space for at least one to say, okay, against a slow, like, what if Glory's against Druid and Warrior? Like, do you just lose?
I agree. I personally prefer the list that Tyler has over what Glory has. Even some of the other lists that have been floating about, like obviously Jambray, who was a big pioneer of this deck in the first place, has his own build that has evil totems in it, and I think evil cable rats as well.
Okay.
Whereas the list that Tyler, Muzzy, and Hunter Race have gone for, all of them 120 for 120 cards the same, is a list that cuts out the evil totem, cuts out the cable rat, and goes for Spirit of the Frog and Murlocs. And I think, as we can see there, for Tyler, it's just a pretty easy case of closing out the game. There wasn't much difference that Glory's deck could have had there when Tyler had a starting hand like that.
Oh yeah, and don't get me wrong, I will talk about just the lack of solar Murlocs in a deck like this.
Yes.
But if your opponent has an insane opening and then happens to be Druid from the mid-game, then yes, you will suffer almost no matter what, because the AoE combined with... Tyler could have gone multiple different routes, right?
Yes.
He also still had 2 hidden Oasis in hand, so he could have healed for insane amounts if he took damage and put big taunts in the way. And then there was follow-up into, you know, there's still the Kun, there's still Sonaris, there's still the AoE.
Yeah.
So there's plenty to do in Druid once you stabilize. And luckily for Tyler, he stabilized from, turn 3 onwards, so it's kind of insane. But that was just game number 1 of this series. We've got plenty more coming up, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
안녕하세요, 김천수입니다. 지금 그랜드마스터 리그에서 활동하고 있어요. 하스스톤 경기할 때는 제가 최대한 침착하게 하려고 노력하는데요. 그때 도움되는 게 물 많이 마시는 거. 물 많이 마시는 게 저한테 꿀팁이라고 할 수 있을 것 같아요. 저번 시즌에 아쉽게 꼴등을 해가지고 이번 시즌에 괜찮게 성적 나와가지고 블리즈컨 갈 수 있으면 정말 기분 좋을 것 같아요. 가면은 저번에 한번 갔었을 때처럼 여행도 많이 해보고 싶어요. 하스스톤 카드 중 하나 되고 싶다고 하면은 저는 데스윙 되고 싶어요. 데스윙 일단 되게 멋있고 게임을 한꺼번에 바로 뒤집는 카드잖아요. 그것처럼 저도 그게 되고 싶어요. 일단 저는 리그를 할 때 최대한 자신감을 잃지 않으려고 노력은 하는 편인데 이번에 꼴등을 하면서 정말 생각지도 못했거든요. 제가 꼴등하는 거를. 그래서 약간 꺾이긴 했어요. 근데 그래도 다음 시즌에는 일단 더 내려갈 곳은 없는 거니까 그거를 생각해가지고 약간 노력해 볼 생각입니다. 저번 시즌에 좀 안 좋은 성적을 보였는데 이게 제가 노력을 아주 열심히 하진 않은 것 같긴 해요. 그래서 이번에는 진짜로 풀 충전해가지고 해보려고 할 생각입니다. 파이팅!
Hey, I'm Tyler and I live in Vietnam, originally from the Netherlands, and I play for Complexity. Well, I've been at the World Championships before and I lost in the first round. I lost in top 16, so that hurt a lot. So for me, getting into BlizzCon would be, like a redemption story, so I would definitely like to be back. Season 1, I finished top 6. I made it to playoffs. I don't think I played to my best abilities. I don't think I have been at my best. So I think if I start working harder, season 2, I feel like season 1, we had no relegation, so there was not much pressure to perform well. Obviously, you want to win, but I feel like, including me and a lot of players were slacking because there was not much risk. But I feel like now that there's relegation on the line, we are definitely going to try harder, including me. Yeah. From APAC region, we have Strander. He beat me and made it to Worlds. I think he was the deserving player. I think he played the best out of all players in APAC. So, yeah, very good player. Well, I'm very happy that we have this format change. Specialist, it got boring. Honestly, we all got bored of it. I think viewers got bored of it. I think there's just more room to display our skills when we play multiple decks. I think Hearthstone is a very fun game with 9 classes, and I feel like we should be able to play all of them.
We are back to continue our first match of the day, but the second match, effectively, of the group. It's going to be Glory versus Tyler going into game number 2. Game number 1, honestly, Tyler looked comfortable against Glory. I don't think there was any even hint of a problem. There was even a Stormbringer played. There was the Evolve played. Not the most mind-blowing Evolve in the world, but still, Tyler not only getting ahead in the early game as Druid because he had the Crystal Merchants, but also just the mid-game was just Surger, Floop, Surger, Starfall game. And my worry is, maybe not his best matchup, but if that's a rough matchup, then surely the other ones could look a bit hard too for the Shaman. But I believe Glory is going to be on his Druid now.
Right, a different story entirely. And like you said, I think for Tyler, once he hit the mid-game, it was like super easy for him. But even those early turns, I think for the most part, I actually like what he did. Like going for the Crystal Merchant play over killing the Evil Totem, I think is something you wouldn't have done last week against the much more popular Quest Shaman, which was pretty much the only Shaman being brought. But nowadays, I think is something that is perfectly reasonable. Focus on your own game plan. They can't double activate the lackeys, so it's fine. But another matchup that we have now, instead, the Paladin from Tyler's side, a deck that his practice group have been absolutely swearing by.
Yes, they were literally streaming it. For those of you who don't know, by the way, I might miss some players or something, but Tyler, Orange, Fino, Muzzy, Hunter Ace,
Saiyan,
Frozen, yep, there you go. They're all at Fino's house and have been boot camping for the week.
Yeah.
And they were streaming yesterday together, mixturing it, as the players dipped in and out. And they were saying that, Paladin feels a bit boring to play because you just win every game.
You just win.
My question is, do you win against people who know how to play this matchup? Because Druid can gain umpteen armor, basically, in this game because of the inclusion of Kun, the Forgotten King, which gains you 10 armor for 0 mana. Then when you add Elise and Floop into the mix and keep generating more and more, you can effectively gain, like, what was the Bunny Hopper screenshot? Like 160 armor or something?
It's absurd.
So that's where the game just ends. Because there is nothing at all the Paladin could do to deal that much damage. What it can do with the addition of Emperor Thaurissan in the middle of the hand there is A, do 50 damage from hand, because you can do both Holy Wraths in one turn and end the game. Also, though, it opens up turns where, for example, you can do a Holy Wrath turn and push out a Fireball, for example, from the Zephyrus, which means you can push easily over 30 damage, which is usually the take was 29, right? Well, now it's not. Now it's 30 or more. So really, I feel this is going to be a tough matchup for Tyler, but it's going to come down to how well Glory gets to this kind of just unlimited armor win condition.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting way that the matchup has ended up on, where both sides got such powerful tools in the most recent event in Doom in the Tomb. Because like you said, it's more armor versus more firepower on the side of the Paladin. And I think the consensus is, I don't want to keep drawing too much on the stream that was happening, but it's a good source of insight, is that Fina was saying this is the one bad matchup. This is the one matchup that you don't want to see as the Paladin is the Druid. Because like you said, the armor gain that they've got, you know, if you're dealing up to 50 damage in a turn, that's unbelievable for a single combo to do that in a deck in Hearthstone. But oftentimes for Druid, that can just be child's play to get up to 50 armor. It's just ridiculous with Kun the Forgotten King, what it can do.
I will say, you know, me going up against, what, 7 of the best players in the world or so.
Not going to end well.
I will say I think Hunter's not a good matchup for this deck either, but we'll get to that if we get to it. But for now, yeah, I think this is definitely a tough one for Tyler. Are we in the age where Druid is the new priest? And best of threes become both players win with Druid. And then it's just whatever the last match. Imagine Druid and Priest matchups.
We'll have to see. I mean, Druid, surprisingly enough, was, to me at least, quite lowly represented, or not represented very much in the deck representation over all the regions here. Whereas, of course, Shaman and Priest were 100% across all all 24 players here across playoffs. But yeah, Druid, surprisingly low.
Yeah, I think I would have submitted it, just because also what it gains, Druid doesn't need much, but the fact it gains an additional threat in like a, you know, like a large level threat, 7/7's nothing to sniff at, but also like the armor helps in some of the aggro matchups because you ramp to it, is the hope, and also it's free. So you can do like even just that into Cenarius.
Yeah.
It's like potentially just a game-winning turn. It's insane.
Also, speaking of decks represented, one mage. One with Flame Waker. You having a laugh?
Aswad, I was talking about this morning actually. He thinks people haven't played it because it's too difficult.
That was definitely the case with Cyclone Mage for a while.
Compared to everything else,
yeah,
it's pretty hard because you can OTK people from high health.
You can.
With that mage list, it is disgusting, especially with the research project.
Yeah.
It's but it's really difficult to play. You need to add up damage and then add up sort of damage or spell implications to if there's minions on board to like really add up the damage super quick. But now Glory's facing down that Thaurissan.
That's right. Very, very crucial turn here for Tyler because as we were saying, if you save Thaurissan for the perfect moment and reduce Shavala, 2 Baleful Bankers and 2 Holy Wraths, 50 damage in one turn is what you are capable of. But if you use it here instead, you lose that upside, but what you gain from Tyler is being able to turbo cycle through your deck. The card draw that he can unleash now is ridiculous.
It's very interesting. I know people think like, oh, is Emperor too slow for Paladin? 6 mana. But Paladin has struggled in the past with just having enough mana to play out turns with because they have so much card draw. Yeah. Well, if you reduce all your cards by 1, you've just gained a lot of mana. You gain what, minimum like 6-7 plus on average? It's insane.
Speak to me.
Looking like a fairly simple subdue swing turn here. For Tyler in this matchup, similar to versus the Warrior, generally you want to be swinging face, I think, with the True Silver to be eroding that armor total. But at this point for Tyler, it's more a case of just don't die right now because these Oasis Surges are very, very threatening. And it's not going to slow down. It is absolutely not going to slow down from Glory.
Yeah, that nourish is pretty huge, and now even the low T means that you can trade off this Acolyte. You really want Sanaya? I wouldn't blame you. Kills it off, only 1 card draw.
And it's just that perfect Druid board in this instance. It is threatening, but not a huge commitment. If he doesn't deal with it, Cenarius comes down and ends the game. If he does deal with it, Scenarios comes down anyway and makes a very threatening board.
Funnily enough, he was actually one off lethal with Scenarios.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So Tyler doesn't have to clear.
Good correction.
Yeah. Although if he's scared of double swipe, he has to, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Let me think.
But now, though, does he have to just play a timeout?
I think he's got to do something here. The fear of Scenarios is too much. And even ignoring that, it's 8 damage that he would be taking if he doesn't do anything to affect this board. Yeah.
I like this.
Must move quickly.
We could see, depending on how much he wants to prioritize the card draw, timeout, prismatic lens, and then also Zephyrus.
Okay, he's clearing instead. I thought he was going to go for the timeout. Feels like he could have gone for the timeout for me. My question being, if Tyler times out then, is Glory really not going to play any more minions? I guess he might not.
I think he might just not. But then again, that's still a valid reason to play timeout, because even if he just doesn't do anything for a turn, and then you can go
You're in the same spot.
Draw clear next turn. Yeah. I think for the most part, it's roughly equal because both plays buy you a turn. So you may as well go for the clear while you have more mana free. And then on the following turn, we could see something like play a card, prismatic lens, timeout.
Right, and a lot of this does depend on how Tyler views the rest of the game being played out. So it does make a difference.
Good point. Oof. Pyromancer being found means we have an active Zephyrus on Tyler's side of the board.
A 1 mana one as well.
Yeah. It looks like we don't have deck size counters at the moment, so we'll have to somewhat wing it as to how many cards Tyler has left in his deck. But I have to imagine we can't be at much higher than the 8 cards, 10 cards left in deck at this point.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's more than that. I'd be down to like 5, 6.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised, yeah. Interesting decision here, as of course Hidden Oasis offers you more healing. But the problem isn't always necessarily healing, it's more armor gain that you're looking for.
Kind of like it now.
Sure. I'm
Yeah,
fine
I
with
mean, you
going
heal
for
for
one hit.
a little bit, but most importantly, you just dumped a 6/6 on the board.
Good point. Forces, of course, either a clear or another timeout. And I think for Glory, even with the turbo draw that Tyler has been going for, maybe he's just got that little bit too much pressure.
Casting this deck without deck size on is difficult.
It is, isn't it?
Because I was even already thinking of, depending on how many cards Tyler has in his deck, does he ever just Shivala, shuffle, play a Holy Wrath?
I think that play would depend on how many cards are left in his deck.
Exactly. I'm glad you listened to my points, Tyler. That's why I enjoy casting with you so much.
Because I'm sentient.
Yes. But yeah, that's the problem, right? Because I guess we can only go off what Tyler actually ends up doing, because it wouldn't be unreasonable to play Holy Wrath this turn, is my point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're in a
he's
rough
got a
spot.
50, maybe even 33% chance at landing one, and then you can follow up the turn after with one.
Yeah.
Because Tyler can't just be like, oh, it's okay, I'll just wait. Because then what if Elise Kun comes down?
He's got to start
At
moving.
some point.
I mean, yeah, Glory's already at 40 armor. A single couldn't have Forgotten King, and he's at that 50 breakpoint. Which, of course, cannot come in the same turn now, but 50 over 2 turns.
Like to play with fire. Reporting for duty.
And honestly, once Glory finds his own Zephyrus, he really won't be all too far off just having lethal with no board at all in the next couple of turns. Obviously, Tyler can start healing with Shivala and rushing in and all that goodness, but it's getting scary with the second timeout having come down now.
That's it, both timeouts gone, and now there's double swipe, plus Zephyrus, plus minions on board, which is pretty much lethal, whichever way you slice it. So I think now, it might, okay, maybe not now, but if the shrink ray wasn't there, it might have been the case that Tyler has to do it, go for a Holy Wrath, purely to play a Shivala and get the heal from it. Like kill a minion and then just try and hope it works. Whereas now there is a clear. It's going to be a follow-up for the Crystal Smith Kangor, apologies. And maybe you can pull off some healing with Cheval next turn.
That was the missing card. The last remaining duplicate there is now found for Glory. So we are looking at some pretty disgusting turns coming into play in the future. I guess the main part is just trying to dump cards out of his hand, actually.
I really like the Oasis Surgeon here.
Okay.
Maybe even with a swipe follow-up. Okay. I guess swipe's probably more of a card you would want to duplicate. He's not going to dupe until Kun's been drawn anyway.
You're probably correct.
Because
yeah.
he never gets OTK'd. Okay, well not never, because he doesn't know what's in the hand, but
I think it's safe to assume.
It's unlikely because he'd have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean.
I think he could actually figure out from all the cards that have been
He'll know
played.
which ones have been reduced.
There's only 2 cards left.
Yeah,
that were reduced.
which means that it's impossible.
And in that case, do you, well, speaking of Kun the Forgotten King, do you think that for Glory it was correct to play the flute? Because, like, unless I'm mistaken, if you keep the flute to go for another Kun the Forgotten King after you've played the first one, you can. That's when you start doing stupid stuff.
It is, and that's definitely something he could have done. But by playing the flute after seeing double timeout and the shrink ray and then the equality, Kun will make him not die in one turn and threaten lethal.
That's
and Tyler can't kill him and defend that in that one turn gap anyway. So I think for me it was fine. He could have gone for the just the insane amount of armor gain, but I actually am with Glory on this one where I don't even think he needed to. He's putting an insane amount of pressure on. And this is what I mean. Tyler's kind of just forced to do this. If he misses, he loses the game. He didn't miss.
You say he's forced to do this. He went with the double shuffle, which means even if he hits here, he could just still draw the second one on the next turn. And at that point, he's relying purely on winning through board.
Wait, didn't he shuffle the banker? Did I miss that?
Oh, did he shuffle the banker? Oh, sorry.
You normally shuffle the banker, right?
Oh, right.
No, because he would have gone from it.
I thought he shuffled another Cheval.
He probably did. I honestly didn't see.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at Glory's hand, but a lot of the time you do like this for board presence. Obviously, he was doing this to try and get the highest chance of an outcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he shuffled 2 Chevalers and he draws it now, then he's still in trouble. I guess he thinks that like Holy Wrath Zephyrus X could get him there.
Very possibly.
Because Glory does now have to clear the board and heal in a perfect world.
Yes, because the problem is for him now that if he goes up to 25, he's still obviously dying. He goes to the exact breakpoint of dying. So he's just saying in this instance, you're not going to hit it. And Tyler, I have to imagine, is going to say, yes, I am.
What the other cards are, because he could work it out where even if he low rolls the Holy Wrath, it might do enough damage to, like, I don't know, make Zephyrus an out. He has to click it, right?
I think so.
Missed. Okay. So now he wants to play double Chevaler.
Yeah, there it is. Just missed it.
Wait, can he... Does he have to wait for Zephyrus? I guess so.
To just try and clear the way?
So this situation is not common, obviously. So I'm trying to work out what the hit is from Zephyrus here.
Earth Elemental?
Oh, weapon.
Oh, Edwin Van Cleef. Okay. Yeah, you probably just take the Cleef for a giant minion.
Reaper.
I think that's a 12. That's a 12/12 Edwin.
But he could Hound Master the Chevaler. That's the real spicy play.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's probably.
I like the Edwin.
It's hard to say.
It's even more than that. It's like a 14/14.
Oh, we can play Crystology as well.
Well. But then on the other side, Glory can just
Twisted Nether game.
Yeah, with the Twisting Nether.
Yeah.
It was an all-in play from Tyler, just saying you don't have the Zephyrus in hand. But I wonder if from Tyler at the end there...
I'm out of cards.
What's his last card? If he picked Arcanite Reaper, he might not have needed the Zephyrus, which is a problem, but Arcanite Reaper would have got lethal there. Hits last turn, hits this turn.
Yeah.
That's a great game. It's hard because we couldn't see what Tyler's last card was. And obviously, what one thing you have to think about is not necessarily because Zephyrus won't discover options that are the new cards from the event cards, but because of the event cards, it means that what you can do with Zephyrus changes.
Yes.
Like we said then, like double Shivala, 1-mana Zephyrus is a thing we've not really been used to casting at all. So I'm not sure what... Van Cleef was probably the pick, but if you're ever afraid of the Twisting Nether, I guess the problem is it removes Twisting Nether as a thing, but then does he just like heal and do something else?
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's just a thing that could have happened. But Tyler did lose that game, and it still looked close enough. He had to make some brave plays, I would say, to try and hope the Shivala hits.
Yeah.
Obviously, if he hit with the second one, it would have been game. But definitely a tough matchup. I can get behind that thought pattern, and it is going to be even 1-1.
Yeah, still going through my head as to things that Tyler could have done differently at the end there. Like you're saying, shuffling a banker with the second banker, or just holding back the second one to try and go for a more controlled out on the second Shivala. But at the same time, if he doesn't do that, then he's less likely to hit the first one, of course. And so I always understand when players, and I often praise them for, going for what seem like somewhat unlikely outs with the Paladin deck, because oftentimes if you don't do that, you just end up losing more likely, more slowly, rather than just going for a chance to win on the spot.
Yeah, and it's one of the benefits, and I guess at the same time hard ways or the hard things about the Paladin deck is that when you play Holy Wrath, you know what can happen and you know what can't happen. A lot of the time, you just know that if I don't kill him in 2 turns, I just will die. You're out of timeouts, you're out of heals, you're going to die. That's just a fact. So then with that knowledge, you do have to make plays that then just say, well, if I'm dead in 2 turns, I have to win in less time, which means that sometimes you have to be a little bit risky.
You do indeed. But that does mean with the Paladin deck out of the way for Tyler, still available, and his Druid deck out of the way, he's now left with, I believe, his Priest and his Paladin deck left remaining. And it does look like for the first time this weekend, since the new cards added in, we're going back to some good old combo Priest action.
Yeah, and I think this might be one matchup that Emperor Thorson does not do much in, since if you're playing a 6-mana 5/5 without Taunt, it doesn't affect the board in any way, you've either already won the game, or you've already lost the game.
you're just about to lose it. Yeah. Especially when Tyler has the dream hand here, or pretty close to it. This is high damage that he can start levying right away. It's not the worst hand I've ever seen from Glory on the other side, of course.
It's got Crystology in it. That helps.
But this kind of hand doesn't always necessarily beat Priest when they have a start like this, because obviously what you're trying to do as Paladin is just relying on the 1 or 2 board clears you have to delay the game enough to the point where you can either run them out of resources in the ideal scenario or just kill them if you get to the later game.
I wonder here what Glory's thinking about. There's obviously a next turn of like Pyromancer, Crystology, Elven Archer to kill off the Warden if it's not been buffed. But the problem with doing a delay like that, obviously Glory's not gone for it, is that, well, if there is a buff, you just lose.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, Crystology had to be played there because it's too good of a card and it makes your other draws for the rest of the game better.
Few different options here for Tyler. We could just see the complete ignoring of the 1/1 here, which I would really not hate too much, and then go Circle Coil Inner Fire to levy, what would that even be, 11 damage to the face on this turn. I think I would like to see the Light Warden connect face on this turn. If he's not going to go for... Like, I don't think you trade and then Circle of Healing, because that's a little bit too vulnerable to Consecration from where I'm sat. I want to see that damage be put in while it can.
I kind of liked it just because of it sort of removes the threat of Subdue.
Well, if they're subduing your minion down to a 1/1, then it's not really a threat anyway at that point.
Oh, sorry. This was on the premise that there was going to be an inner fire.
Oh,
turn.
okay.
Because if they just subdue your inner fire and you put that on the Tolve, for example,
Yeah.
then it just dies instantly.
I think the difference between having a 1/1 and it dying is not big enough to miss out on 6 damage face. And I honestly think that I would have just thrown down the inner fire. It's weaker to equality, this line of play, which I can understand because you don't want to leave a 1/1 and let it trade into the inner fire Tolve.
Yeah, and that's what I was meaning by subdue as well, right? Because if you
Oh,
leave,
sorry.
if you leave the 1/1 on the board and you've inner fired the Tolve, they just subdue the Tolve and trade.
Right.
But a lot of ups and downs and different choices to make here. Tyler has lost his Light Warden. He's got another one where that came from.
In the light's name.
Yeah,
Just
got
Tolve
more than,
circle
more
now
than
after
enough
seeing
to be
that.
moving on with here. It's fairly all in, I think, here for Tyler, because of course, if you were to be met with a Shrink Ray, you are very, very sad as Tyler. But honestly, without Northshire Cleric, you very often do just have to go all in right at the start of the game.
It's what his hand says, right? Like, is he really gonna?
Is he holding the inner fire here? I would have played this last turn already. I think this is...
So no circle.
I think he is going to circle. He just wants the extra
But
attack.
you'd use
bonus.
the
Oh, I guess he
coin.
can save
Yeah,
it
yeah.
for a turn?
I think he saves it because it can't attack anyway.
Okay, fair
right?
enough, fair enough, fair enough.
Now another consecrate. Can Glory hold off?
And I think it was fair enough for Tyler to not play around this pretty specific double consecration hand that Glory had here.
Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely, isn't it?
And it's easy for us to sit here and say, you know, Glory had none of the cards in the Equality, Subdue, or Shrink Ray, so Tyler should have gone more all in, but Tyler's trying to cover his outs here.
Does he just go now, though? Come on, you've seen 2 consecrates. Like, I think he just circle inner fires go and maybe topsies the Blade Master next turn for lethal. Like, honestly, are you really holding on? Your opponent's on 16.
We'll deal 6 damage. 10, 14. Yeah, no, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how you get to break points in 2-turn lethal.
Well, if he circled, he goes up to 8, right?
Does 12 damage, yeah.
So he can deal 12, put him to 4.
Yeah.
So then, really, the Blade Master has to die or it's lethal anyway.
Is it 1 damage off lethal on this turn anyway, though?
If he topsied.
If he topseed, yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, he's going. I agree. You could wait for the out of Northshire Cleric off the top, or you could just say, if you don't have this exact card, I'm just winning the game.
I like this. He's seen 2 consecrates. Oh, there's a timeout though. But honestly,
Huge.
the longer he waited, the more chance there is of being a timeout, of there being
Yes.
healing. So I like this from Tyler. I think he just needs to go in. His hand does not speak to the late game in any way.
I fully agree. I mean, the only thing I'm really wondering if he should have gone all in even quicker before he did go for it, but I think this is perfectly reasonable.
And even now, that Acolyte is actually maybe the best card he could have drawn. Because it's another minion to push damage. He might be able to buff and topsy it if that's the lowest priority Glory gives.
Yeah.
And even if there's a Shrink Ray, he's only 1 off lethal anyway. So
And there is no Shrink Ray. You could, of course, get another timeout off of the Prismatic Lens
Yes.
or the Hammer of Wrath. But Glory needs something.
Kinda does just have to go for it, but there is only 1 lens left, and that flash of light is not going to be good enough. And maybe in less spectacular fashion than we're used to, but Priest is going to continue to look impressive without requiring any of the event cards.
That's true. Just good old-fashioned combo Priest getting the job done there for Tyler. Weird last end game there to finish things on, but it does mean that Tyler is going to the winners match in our group here to face off against Chonsu in the next match of today, which will be pretty exciting. It's a big win there for Tyler to get his chance at going through to the finals.
Yeah, and just to give you, again, another outline in case you just joined us, Chonsu effectively has a 1-0 lead in the group, and then Tyler's matched him now by winning his match. So it means that the winner between Tyler and Chonsu goes through to Sunday semi-finals, basically. So it's a huge match coming up for both these players, as it will put them just, 2 matches away potentially from just making it all the way to the global finals, whereas Glory actually taking that loss there means he is going to go down. And funnily enough, it's all come down to this: face Alutimu in the sort of losers match, so to speak.
That's right. Long-time practice partners as the 2 Japanese players that we have here in Hearthstone Grandmasters. They have, I believe, I was looking through the lists, 120 for 120 identical deck lists here yet again, even though they knew full well that they could be facing up against each other in the well, I suppose the winners or the losers, but more likely the losers here, as Alutimu does end up being in 4th place, has an automatic loss effectively to Chonsu in the first round. And that will be a very interesting one to catch as our match after the one we have coming up here, because of